Hello lovelies and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're gonna make a charcuterie board with a resin pour on the edge. What? Please excuse my voice. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, as you can hear, so it's especially annoying and scratchy, and I'm so sorry for it. But I hope you can bear with me to see how awesome these are gonna turn out. Charcuterie is just a super fancy pants way to say a serving board, a board on which you serve snacks. And we're gonna do a little resin pour on it. So exciting. And I know you might be thinking, well, a charcuterie board or a serving board, you know, that's supposed to have food on it and resin really isn't food safe. Oh, excellent point, my friend. Except for art resin is the magical resin that is non-toxic, it is food safe, and has no VOCs. So if you guys want to see me make a charcuterie board with some food safe art resin, then please keep watching. First, I'm going to say, again, I'm so sorry for my voice, this cold. I know it probably sounds like nails on a chalkboard to some of you, but if you can just bear with me, if just look into my, you go ahead and hit mute on the video and look into my eyes, and my eyes will convey to you all that you need to know. You'll see me gesturing and you're going to be like, oh yeah, she's talking about bamboo boards, and yeah, you're going to know. It's going to be great. It's gonna be great. So I chose bamboo cutting boards just because they're extremely reasonably priced. And this is my first time with this project. And we all know something's gonna go awry. So I didn't want to throw a ton of money at the project to start. Also, the inspiration behind this project is one of my friends, Sean. She's asked me to do a resin pour on a charcuterie board. I'm happy to do it, but I wanna have a little, you know, trial and error first before I ruin the board that she gives me. So that's why we're kind of doing this situation. So this 3-piece bamboo board came from TJMaxx and it was only $10. That's right, $10, 3 bamboo boards. What? That's amazing. I think that's a really good deal. I love TJMaxx. I have a real problem. I'm there all the time. And then we have the coveted art resin. So I chose art resin because I saw that they do have a food safe resin that's actually FDA approved. I didn't want to use a resin that wasn't rated for food safety on something that was going to have food on it, like that I'm planning on putting food on. So that's why I went with the art resin. So this resin has no VOCs, no BPAs, no LMNOPs. If you recall from when I talked about my safety video, which I'll put a link to right there, I'm still going to use a respirator even though this has no VOCs, just because I decided to err on the side of safety. But you guys can make up your own choices what you want to do, but for me, we're in a respirator with these. What colors are we gonna make it? I don't know if you recall these guys from that homemade sign that I made. I had some left over of this paint and I still love this color combinations. So I thought I would use these to mix in with resin and do our pour on the charcuterie board. And to kind of mix it up and add a little bit more depth and a change of color and add a little bit of shine, I'm gonna add some copper mica powder. This is the same mica that I used to make that resin bracelet. I can link that video right here. So when I used this with the resin cuff bracelet, I noticed there was a little bit more on the orange side. And I'm purposely picking it for this project because one of our colors is pretty rusty, has that orange look to it. And I think that's really gonna kind of tie those colors together. So I also wanna add a little bit of white pigment, and I also want there to be a lacing effect along with that. And so I have this Armor Art, which is known to kind of create that beautiful lacing. So you mix a little bit of this in with some resin, and then on your project, you'll pour a little bit of clear resin first, then you'll pour the white mixture of this on, and then you hit it with your heat gun. Speaking of heat gun, boom! I got a new heat gun! Look at this thing, it's serious. This is a legit. So the reason why I got a new heat gun, I'm still gonna be using my old heat gun for projects, but this moves a lot more air. So think more like a blow dryer. This thing moves a ton of air, so I need that hot air to push and create the lacing details that this Armor Art is known for. So that's why we got this guy. And then, of course, glitter. In the tiniest little cute vial. Look how cute it is. And again, going with the theme, I chose kind of a rose goldy copper glitter. So to prep our board for the resin pour, we gotta sand it, right? So I'm gonna use 180 sandpaper, and then I'm gonna use 220. So I'm gonna use the 180 first, followed up by the 220. So I'm gonna be sanding all surfaces, the front, the back, the edges, including inside this little bit of handle here. Then I'm going to wipe that all away. I am not going to use water, right? Because water is one of the mortal enemies of resin artists. I could use water to wipe it away, but I would have to let it dry for probably a good 24 hours just to be safe, because once I sand this, there's no protective coat on it and it's more likely to absorb water and hold that water in there. So I'm just going to use a dry cloth and I'm going to wipe it down and really be very thorough with it. Whip that towel out a little bit, come at it again, and just make sure that there's no little debris left on it. Then on the back of our piece, we're gonna take a little bit of painter's tape. I'm probably only gonna tape like this far down because this is the side that I'm pouring. I don't intend to go any further than this. So I'm definitely gonna put the tape all along the back. I'm not gonna tape the edges. I do want where I put the resin to flow over the edge, including the edges in here. I'm just gonna tape the back so that what does drip down and end up down here, I can more easily remove it later on. I might have to hit it with a heat gun to kind of loosen that resin up, but either way, it won't have seeped into the back of our board. And then once we have that taped off and ready to go, I have my little painter's triangles that I will set the board up on so it's elevated so that the drips can drip over the edge and then down. Then we'll do our pouring, we'll let that cure. And then depending on how the first pour looks, I may or may not go in with a second pour. And that's kind of the beauty of it. You don't want to build it up too many layers, like probably 2 layers is the maximum that you want to go, so you don't have a huge lip. And if you do too many layers, that's going to be one heck of a lip. So at most, I would do 2 layers, and the edge of the second layer, I will not take all the way up to the edge of the first layer. That way, it's more of a graduated edge. But again, I'm not even sure if I plan on doing 2 layers. It's just kind of like a backup plan if I don't like the way the first layer looks. Plus, this is a learning process, so I kind of don't know what I'm doing. So after I do the first layer, I may be like, okay, well, I learned a lot from that. And then I may try to like, you know, fix it up a little bit with a second layer. I'm reserving the right to do a second layer. After that cures, I will then use a heat gun and pull the taping and any of that like dripped resin along the edges off. And then you might think we'd be done, but we're not. We have to recondition the board. So bamboo and pretty much any wood, serving boards or cutting boards, you have to treat them well. You want to keep them so that they don't absorb any bacteria, and you don't want them to absorb water either because that makes the wood swell, and over time that's how you get the cracks. We want to make sure that we introduce oil back into it. Now, you can use mineral oil. I think that is the most common used oil for bamboo. However, I'm gonna be using coconut oil. So it's just organic coconut oil, and I will use that to recondition the board again on all the areas that aren't covered with resin. I'm just gonna rub that in 1 layer, let that sit for maybe an hour to soak it up, go back in with a second layer, let that soak up as well for another hour, and then wipe the board off, and it'll be good to go. Let's do this. Before we do the final reveal, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and to click that bell so you don't miss any new videos. All right, you guys know what time it is. It's revealing time. I learned a lot from this project because someday I'm going to not fast forward it and just make you suffer through the whole process of me like doing a little bit and being like, oh God, no, that's not right. And then doing a little more and be like, oh no, I made it worse. Okay, I can do something to make it better. And then I keep going and then I keep going and then I keep going. And then I'm like, oh, I should stop. And then I go some more. Like, so that you can experience that in real time and feel really sad for me because I think that you would. That is what happened on the second coat of this. First coat was magic, literal magic. It was beautiful. There were cells popping up everywhere, and I realized that's because way back in the day when I did my first project with this paint set, I added cell magic, which is basically a silicone oil, but I had already added that to each of the paints, and I completely forgot about that because as I was pouring the layers, just as they were kind of running together side by side, cells were forming. I hadn't even touched it with the heat gun. I'm like, what new magic is this? What's happening? This is amazing. I haven't even hit it with a heat gun, And there's cells. I was worried. I didn't think there were going to be cells because I wasn't really sure how, you know, any of this worked. As I was hitting with the heat gun, then tons of cells would form, and I was like, this is amazing! And I was like, maybe that's why the homemade sign project didn't work out as well, because it needed to be mixed with resin, and that's like the key, which I do think is definitely part of the key. But it was so magical. But there were some little imperfections, and I thought, you know what? I want to put a top coat. And instead of just putting a top coat and protecting the beauty of what I had poured with the magical cells, I thought, ooh, what an opportunity to do some more armor art cells. That'll be fun. So that's why you saw my second layer. I did all these big white armor art cells here. I kind of took away from that first layer. It's still beautiful on its own. I still love it, I really do. I got carried away, I didn't know what I was doing, and then I tried to make it even because it was just a bunch down here, and then I was like, well, I gotta add some up here because that's not balanced. And then I just kept pouring and heat gunning and pouring and heat gunning and pouring and heat gunning until finally the frozen thing happened with the heat gun, and I applied it for too long and too hot, and it like froze part of it. So then I'm like, oh, I gotta put another top coat on. So I did. I put another top coat on, and here she is. Now, what brought me a lot of joy was removing the tape and everything off the back. That was like a dream. That was so easy. I was really worried about that. When I was finished pouring, I would try to hit the bottom here with my mixing stick to like pull off the big drips. But of course, when you walk away, it's still settling and self-leveling, and you still get drips off the side. So really, I didn't even need to do that, I don't think, honestly. I started pulling the tape off after only about 10 hours of curing. Now, I made sure not to touch this side because this side was still very easily, I could put my thumbprint in it. So I was sure not to touch this side, which is why that film is kind of shaky, because I'm holding the board like right here and not touching this part, and trying to peel that tape off. That part of the video is kind of difficult to watch, I'm sure, so I'm sorry about that. But it came off very easily. Only bleed through happened in a few places, like a little bit here, 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 and here. And that is something you would totally sand off if this is something you were gonna sell, because you haven't treated or sealed your board yet. So you could just hit that with some sandpaper, which I do think would have taken it right off. But you know, this is going on my kitchen, so I'm not worried about it. Even though I'm a perfectionist, but I was like, no. I don't want to do anything else that could mess anything up. And I'm on a time schedule. Yeah, I was really excited that that part went without incident. This was a very exciting project. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you could learn something. I hope that you learn that sometimes enough is enough, and to not just keep going and then like it gets crazy and then you get the frozen thing. I hope that you learned that. Also, that the cell magic added to the paint is amazing. It really made some beautiful designs, which I then covered up. But you saw it in the first part. But this finished project is, I do think, very lovely. I'll be very excited to serve some meats and cheeses on this bad boy on my new fancy pants resin charcuterie board. So fancy. That's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. I do plan on making many, many more of these down the road, especially for my friend Sean, who requested one. So Sean, it's coming up. All right, guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. I just wanted to pop on real quick. I know I usually do outtakes and things. I just want to say how grateful I am. I mean, 1,000 subscribers. That is mind-boggling. Completely and utterly and unequivocally mind-boggling to me. And I just want you to know that I appreciate every single one of you. You have no idea how much it means to me that you guys are finding this content valuable. It is, I don't know, humbling is the best that I can say. I feel very blessed. I am very grateful. I'm very appreciative that you all are watching, and I cannot thank you all enough for the wonderful comments that you're leaving, and it's just so helpful, and a lot of you are very, very kind and complimentary, and I appreciate that. And just, it's like all my dreams are coming true, in that we're a community, and it's like we're helping each other out, and just, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I'm rambling. I just don't even know what to do with the information that I have 1,000 subscribers, that there's 1,000 people that want to watch what I have to say. So I thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you. I appreciate every single one of you. I love every single one of you. I love that we're all on this journey together. I know some of you are like, pros, and you're probably watch this maybe to get a giggle, but you know, that's awesome. And I love the noobs that are, we're learning together, and that's what it is. And I love to hear when you guys are starting your journey, because it's kind of a scary first step. There's a lot, it's intimidating is what it feels like. It's intimidating. There's so much you can do with this medium, but it is magic. It is magic once you start it, and of course, once you're safe. And I'm so thankful that you're all here on this journey with me, and that you're enjoying the journey so far. I'm being so repetitive. Thank you for putting up with my ridiculousness, my ridiculosity. That's not even a word, but it is when it defines me. You're amazing. And I don't know how I would do it without you. Thank you. I love you. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye. It's kind of intimidating to think that 1,000 people want to watch me be a complete nerd. Because I can't help it, man. I'm just a weirdo. So if you guys want to...
Charcuterie.
Charcuterie. I have to say it with an accent, because that man said it with an accent. We're going to do a charcuterie board. Says the man on YouTube who told me how to say charcuterie properly. And I want that to be able to create the leasing details? What am I, a landlord? Okay. Oh, this is my charcuterie board. I feel like I sounded like Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast, right? Oui, mademoiselle. Let us put fruits and cheeses and meat on our charcuterie board, and we shall serve them. Be our guest. Why is it giving me a red box? You can't focus. You can't focus on my face. Oh, thanks. Oh, it's got dust on it. Already? It's been in the room for 5 minutes, whatever. Boo, boo, boo. I'm just like, I can't stop it. It's so smooth. So smooth. And because I don't just want it to be a bunch of opaque, doogie, charcuterie. Would you like to see my charcuterie board? Oui, here it is. I made it, it's shiny. A little bit too much of the art resin. Am I Italian? I was French and then I went Italian. We're gonna do a resin pour. Oh, you little turds. You can focus. You can do it. Yes. To your sanded cardboard. To your sanded cardboard. Come on, I'm Mr. Ed. So I'm gonna use so much dust. Bamboo's hard. It's amazing, like my head. Okay. The mic is my best friend. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but now I have to say the whole video in this accent. I don't even know where the accent is. I forgot to shut the door. I'm gonna go shut the door. I'm gonna come back and we're gonna talk about the charcuterie boards.